Welcome to Inside Photo Organizing, from DIY to Pro. I am Allison Friedman from Arrange Wander Focus of Chicago, Illinois.
I am Susan Wallach from Save a Memory of Northern Colorado. This podcast focuses on preserving memories and stories through our photos and videos.
Together, we will provide photo organizing tips and tricks for everyone from the person who wants to do it yourself to other pros in our industry. We will also bring you the latest software and hardware for photo and digital asset management. We're passionate about helping you turn disorganized memories into stories you can cherish and share.
We will be answering your questions, and we hope that as you learn more, you can complete your own storytelling and photo organizing project and feel more confident to finally know that you can preserve and find those special memories with ease. Join us on this journey of learning how to preserve the memories that matter. Good morning, Allison.
Good morning, Susan. It's been a while since
Yes.
we've done this.
Well, somebody took a vacation and said, we got to stack up a few interviews before I'm out of here. So,
I did. I did. I do admit that. Yeah, so we recorded a few in January because for almost 3 weeks in February, I was in South Africa trying to take advantage of the empty nest that I now find myself in. And it was fabulous and totally worth it and very busy once I got back. But this is South Africa behind me. You'll see I've moved on from my snowy background, although was actually snowing yesterday here in Chicago. But I now have a nice South Africa ocean
you
behind
do.
me. Yeah,
Yes. So if
yeah.
you visit us on our YouTube channel, you can now see her interchangeable background that she me, I'm just here in my office and that's it.
You don't want to see my office. I do also. So I was in South Africa, and it was amazing. I'm not gonna go into detail here, but I actually have a blog post on our trip because I had enough people asking me about it. So if you're interested, you can go to my website. But I was home for a few days and then went to Roots Tech. And Susan, you couldn't join me this year, but I had a couple people come find me and tell me how much they love our podcast. So that was super fun
That's
because
awesome.
honestly, guys, everybody listening, we have no idea whether you like this or not because, we don't get a lot of people writing in and saying thank you so much. So it would be really great if you listening could leave us a review or shoot us an email so that we know that you're actually interested in what we're doing. Let us
And we're
know
on the
things
right
that
track.
we're on the right track. Let us know if there's
Yep.
things you want to learn about. We get a little bit of that, but I'd love to hear more. So it was really nice meeting people there that really enjoy the podcast. One of the guys asked if you were there, Susan, and if we would be doing another live from Roots Tech. And I had to say no because you couldn't make it this year. But maybe next year. Maybe next year we'll revive that or do it somewhere else.
Of course, yeah. Well, that's good. Yeah. No. I just think that what we've been doing has been fun for both of us, but we want to make it fun for our audience.
Yeah.
And so to that point, exactly. And we're also, looking toward the future, like what would you like us to discuss? What do you want to know? So if you've got any interest in a particular topic or subject, let us know.
Yeah. People that have sent in suggestions, we've done it. We don't always mention that we're doing it for a specific person.
Yeah.
But people that have sent in suggestions, those become episodes.
Yep.
So seriously, if you're sitting out there and you're thinking, wow, I really want to learn about some archaic something having to do with photos, send it in because we can probably talk about it. And if we can't, then we'll want to learn and we'll do the
And
research and then we'll talk about it and bring in the
we'll bring
person
in a
that can,
guest.
yeah,
Yeah.
bring in the guest that can do it with us.
So,
Yeah.
speaking of guests, today I'm very excited because this is a person that I've was introduced to through another podcast and tech personality, Leo Laporte, that I have followed for, oh my gosh, I don't know, it's got to be over 20 years now. So when I was in IT working for local government, his assorted podcasts and tech and all things just was my right up my alley, my learning gateway, so to speak. So I learned of our next guest through his podcast, and just has been an admirer of his ever since. So I want to welcome uh, to our podcast Peter Krogh.
Well, thank you very much for having me. And yeah, thinking about Leo, I haven't talked to him in a while. I got to go to Tasmania with him um, 15 years or so ago on a doing a book project on Lightroom. We went down with the Adobe Lightroom team as they were developing the next version of the software.
And I
And
remember all of that and him talking about it and just, drooling at the fact to go down there and just to be in Australia, period. But to go on a photo tour like that would be amazing.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, I mean,
How exactly Lightroom Tasmania? What's the connection there?
there's a guy named Mikkel Alland, Aaland, and he's an old friend of mine, and he's just an unbelievable creative force. And he did a lot of tech books back in the day, and he had proposed uh, to Adobe this idea of what he called the Lightroom adventure. Um, and this was to bring photographers and the design team from Adobe Lightroom together to have them see in real time the workflows that we had and the challenges that we had, and they were literally seeing what we were doing and where there were issues, and they would be reporting back to the development team at Adobe in San Jose, in Minnesota, and they would make changes to the beta software that we were using, and that would be ready the next day, and we'd
That's
give it a shot.
unreal.
So the first one was in Iceland. That was a fantastic trip. The second one was in Tasmania, and just an amazing thing. He's just completed a video series on saunas around the world, and yeah, just a wonderful creative spirit and fantastic guy.
Well,
And
how
Anything
Leo was a
anything
friend of
dealing
his.
with travel, sign me up.
Yeah, yeah,
Sign me
yeah.
up.
That was a wonderful part about my career as a photographer, and um, I got into this as a professional photographer, and it was always important to me the preservation of the work that I did, and so that was something I focused on a lot in my early film photography career, and then as digital took over, I got tapped by ASMP, which is a professional photographers trade organization, and they tapped me as the head of the Committee on Digital Standards and Practices, which was totally out of left field. It was, I was completely without portfolio in that regard, but they saw something in me, and a guy named Dave Harp, and that changed my life. It led to uh, the getting in touch with Adobe and working with them on putting the uh, Adobe Bridge together. That was the time frame, and then through the middle of that product cycle, I realized they were looking at me as the information architecture guy, which was really sort of stunning when I realized that. And I realized, well, maybe I'm the guy to write the book on how you should manage your digital photo collection. And when that was published in 2005, it's like being shot out of a rocket. I was in 5 countries and 30 cities that year, all by invitation, just coming in over the transom. It was really remarkable. And so I followed that thread, but continued as a professional photographer for a bunch of years till probably about 2015. I had my first gig building a dam as the product manager for a company called Photo Shelter in the teens, and then left that, wrote another book, and then um, was I joined uh, the company that is now Mediagraph. It was called Tandem Vault at the time, and and
And for
that
our listening audience, DAM is digital asset management.
yes. Okay, I figured they would know that already, but I do
Nope.
try and explain my acronyms. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, well, today, just as a little bit of a backup and background, we're actually talking backup, which is one of Susan and my favorite topics. We touch upon it literally every single show, but this show is all about backup. And DAM refers to digital asset management. We're not swearing at you, although I suppose we could. It's a podcast. We can say whatever we want, but
They'd
we're
never
not
know.
swearing at you. And it's not the Hoover Dam or something holding back water. It's DAM, digital asset management. And you really are the architect. They were not wrong in pinging you for that job.
Yeah, it was it, you know, sometimes you find your calling, sometimes your calling finds you, and that's what happened here. And I'm passionate about visual imagery, but also about history and the ability to keep records and know what happened in the past, and visual media and all of the associated metadata is so important to in my view for preserving that knowledge.
That's awesome. Well, I'm having a little star um gazing over here because again, I followed you, I have your books. I think your ideology about backup and everything is right on the money. And again, just you know, I met you at the conference in I think it was Florida, and then that was when I learned about Mediagraph, and I was like, oh my God, that blew my mind. So, but before we talk about Mediagraph, let's talk about digital asset management.
Sure.
So, so what is digital asset management and why is it so important?
Well, it's an umbrella term that encompasses all of the processes and all of the different elements of storing your visual media, making it discoverable, and then making use of it. And so it really is the integration of the, of understanding how to store and back up digital files, how to tag them using metadata, how to put them together in interesting and useful ways, and really how to understand that this is an ongoing process, that your digital storage is not a thing you put your files in. It is a process. It may happen to be stored on this particular hard drive right now, but at some point in the future it's going to be stored on something else. And so DAM really is a term that encompasses all of that. And um, and that's sort of the challenge here, is how do you communicate the ecosystem and all these elements and how they relate to each other.
Oh, for sure. I think, and Allison can attest to this, when we're introduced and helping people perhaps dedupe their digital collection, figuring out where those original files are to gather is oftentimes very messy. They've got stuff strewn. They don't know where stuff is. They don't know how many copies they have, where it is, when it was backed up. They don't know what year even the hard drive was purchased, perhaps, like how old the devices are. And so I've had people ship me boxes of media that could, end up being terabytes of data that I have to then collect, gather, and dedupe and then organize for them. And so, yeah, doing it well and protecting your library is so important. And understanding what different software is doing with your data. So many people got bit because when Apple rolled out iCloud, they didn't realize that it was a sync and they thought it was a backup. So whatever they deleted on their phone, they thought they still had in the cloud, and that's not the case. I know my neighbor lost all of her children's photos because of that.
Yeah, those are painful stories. It is something you do have to understand. And there's all these systems are designed to do something, but not everything.
Right. And not the same thing,
Right.
oftentimes.
Well, and it changes too. You mentioned process, which is also I didn't want to lose that thread because we also run into a lot of people, I'm sure both of you have seen this, where people say, well, I backed up, I put everything on this external hard drive. And then I couldn't find the drive, so I did it again. And then I couldn't remember what date that went to, so I just did the whole thing again. And you end up with all of these different external drives or cloud services or whatever that have some state of your media, but you don't know exactly what. And, our job is kind of to work through that, figure it out, and create a system or a process for them. And people can do it themselves too. So if you're listening at home and you're DIY, it's something you can do as well. But you need to come up with a process for it so you don't end up with 10 different external hard drives with some portion of your media. You need to have it set up so that it is automatic, so that you always know what's going where and you know sort of what your primary is and everything else is a backup that you can rely on if needed. So I'm looking forward to getting into that with you today.
Yeah, I
You.
wanted I'm glad you brought up this concept of primary and backup because I do think that's absolutely key to understanding all of this is that you should be able to point to either that device or point up to a cloud somewhere where you think all of your stuff is stored and know which is a primary copy and which is a backup copy. And if it's a hard drive, that can be very easy that this hard drive is the one I use all the time. That's the primary copy, and then I've got hopefully multiple backups of that somewhere else. But you don't wait till when your primary drive starts getting full and hey, I've got some room left on my backup drive. I'll start storing stuff over there, or the multiple different copies scenario. It's very difficult to recover from without somebody who really understands deduping digital files, for instance.
Yeah.
So that concept of primary and backup is is really key to understanding to building a good backup system.
Let's back back up. Sorry. Pun not intended, but I guess it could be intended. March 31st, yesterday, as in terms of when this podcast comes out, is World Backup Day. So we did this well. But I just want to, at the very least, we talk a lot about 3-2-1 backup, and I want us to actually start with that before we get into the nitty-gritty with you about best practices and what to use and how to set it up and process and what you should be backing up. Because we talk about 3-2-1 all the time. You see it everywhere. I'm assuming that's something you talk about as well, the idea of a 3-2-1 backup.
Yeah, that was first published in my original DAM book,
Yep.
and that has become the the kind of understandable shorthand for how to store digital files, and it is synthesized from the way professional IT people were doing things. But yes, uh, the first part of that, which isn't represented in the countdown numbers, is understanding that there should be a primary copy of the data, and then the 3-2-1 backup is that there should be three copies of anything you want to keep that's a digital file, and there should be two different media types ideally. These days, that's usually a hard drive and then a cloud copy. But it could be an optical disc or tape or something like that. And then one of them really needs to be stored offsite. And that's because, all of the hazards of keeping stuff located together, whether that's fire or theft or lightning strike or a cracked pipe that floods your storage room or whatever that is. So yeah, three copies, two different media types ideally, and one of them stored offsite.
Yeah. And the two different media types can also be, because I have people who that I work with that really don't trust or like the cloud.
Yeah.
So for them, I tell them essentially you can use two different external drives of some kind, but you might want to make sure you're buying them at different times or they are different manufacturers so that you don't end up buying two or three hard drives at the same time from the same manufacturer and then find out that that's a bad batch. So even if you don't want to use the cloud, you can do it. Just make sure that they are different media. Maybe one is Crucial and one is Samsung or, anything, something like that. Because I do have a number of people now that are cloud averse. They don't want to use
Yeah,
that.
and that's a totally reasonable position for people to take.
Yeah.
I would say that uh, if you're going to be using hard drive only, one of them should definitely be disconnected normally, and then what I've done for years before cloud backups became affordable and practical was I had several hard drives because I couldn't fit it all on one in a little camera bag that I took over to my friend John's house. And when I was going to be off on, away from home for some period of time, which was a lot, I wanted to make sure there was that copy offsite, offline, just if it could just be one hard drive, that would be fine. And
Yeah.
hard drives have gotten so big that you can do that, but just carry that offsite and then if something were to happen to your local copy, then you're protected.
Yeah. Disconnect is really important. I actually have my cup of drives that I keep near my desk.
Cupo drives. Oh,
My
okay.
cup of drives that I use for various things. And one of them is I actually use the cloud also, and I keep another one not in the same area. But I literally keep my cup of drives next to my computer because I swap them in and out. And just so it's clear, the reason you might want something that's not connected is you have a virus, malware, ransomware. I have a client now whose computer was taken over by ransomware and anything connected to it
Yeah.
was also affected. So nothing can happen to this, whoops, if it's sitting in my cup of cup of drives, at least nothing through the computer. So very important.
Yeah, that's an essential part of it. And if you have an automated system, which we'll be talking about, I'm assuming here, how you can set this up to automatically back up, then that can back up your mistakes
Mhm.
right away too, or in, as you point out, ransomware. So that's really important. Um, and I will say that there are cloud services where it is possible for you to encrypt the files before they get pushed up to the cloud, so that does take a certain level of or provides a certain level of reassurance for those who don't don't want to
Are
trust big tech
cloud
companies.
averse. Yeah.
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 So, in my environment, besides the external hard drive route, I also have a network attached storage, also known as a NAS, and that provides another level of security. So, to Allison's point, I'm not really too concerned then about one particular brand of hard drives failing because I've got redundancy there with a RAID system. RAID is software that provides redundancy across multiple drives, and then you can figure out what your tolerance is if you're like, oh, I can lose one drive and I'm good, or no, I can lose two drives and I'm good. So you can set it up any way you want that way.
Yeah, and that's I have to put an asterisk on that, and that is that people who don't understand what they're doing with RAID systems are I'm sort of a magnet for people's problems in their storage. And
Gee, I wonder why.
yeah, and it is uh they have blamed me at times, and that's not what I wrote, but okay, yeah, if you want to blame me, I guess. Um no, people who set up NAS devices or RAIDs who are doing it themselves, who don't understand what they're doing, they do have there's it is not unheard of for them to fail to maintain the RAID properly and have that become a problem itself. And
Yeah.
it is a single device that can fall off a table and break. Um, so, but yeah, and I think it's also important to be clear that the perfect can be the enemy of the good. And these days, hard drives are so inexpensive for the
Yeah.
amount that they can hold. They're large. They're generally pretty reliable. If if you can't think, if cloud service doesn't work for you, 3 hard drive copies is perfectly fine, and for the vast majority of people.
Yeah. And most people, most average users don't need a NAS or RAID. We use them. I have a RAID because it's my business. I
Yep.
have to have massive amounts of storage. But if I did not have this business, I would not bother going down that route. You just don't, I would say 90+% don't need that kind of a system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll talk more as we move in today's discussion about how all this works and what does the average person need, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And another thing that I think is um, an important thing to keep in mind is to try and be as to design your system to be as simple as it can be. Don't overcomplicate it. And these days you can go buy a single hard drive that'll hold 20 terabytes,
Yeah.
and you have to work really hard as a non-professional to be amassing that
That amount of
amount
data.
of
Yeah.
data. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
just um, and so if you buy two, and one is your primary and one is your backup, ideally you'd buy a third and have that other one, off at John's house. But if uh, if you don't even have one, go get it now, please.
Yeah. And you don't need the 20 terabyte. Honestly, most of my clients, 2 terabyte drives are
Yeah,
more than enough. So it's
yeah,
really just looking at what you have. And what I always tell people is look at what you have and at least double it in terms
yeah,
of what kind of drive you're going to get for a backup.
Yeah.
But
Because
for
you do
most
need room to grow.
Yeah, but for most people, we're talking a couple terabytes, maybe 4 terabyte drives, and I think 2 terabyte drives now are, $150, maybe
yeah,
roughly, give or
yeah.
take.
Well, yeah, I was just looking. I think 16 terabytes is only 350. So,
There you
um,
go.
and the newer, bigger drives, if it's a spinning disk, not a solid state disk, then the typically the larger ones are going to be newer, newer design, faster, um, and plenty of spare capacity. It's, by the way, one of the places people get in the most trouble is when a drive is filling up. That
Yeah.
is when they do
The crazy
hurried,
stuff.
goofy stuff, and you can look at that folder and say, "Oh yeah, I just don't need it. I don't need it. I don't need it." No. And you don't think about that reason you do need it until after you have securely deleted all of
Yeah.
the files on it. And when you're doing that in a hurry, that's when people make mistakes. So having enough capacity
Yeah.
of storage, both in your primary and your backups, is really essential.
Or what you said earlier, your primary drive is filling up. Oh, but there's space on this other one.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to stick some stuff there. And that is like reason number one that absolutely gets you into trouble down the road because
Yeah.
that is where you go back to, well, what's your primary?
Yeah.
Because now you have two primaries. Well, you can't have two primaries. You should only have one, and it does get you into trouble. So do yourself a favor and get a bigger drive
Yeah.
or two.
And that is the point to almost any device that you're using, whether it's your mobile device or it's your desktop or it's a laptop, is people tend to, because of budget or money concerns in whatever way, the areas that they scrimp on is the size of the hard drive. And so then that causes them to have to lug along an external hard drive wherever they're going, you know?
Yeah.
So if you just spent a little bit more up front, get a 1 terabyte, or if you can afford 2 terabytes, then your need for multiple external hard drives is reduced. So Peter,
Yeah,
go
I'll
ahead.
say that
Yeah.
there's been this trend in computing that it was weird as they went from a, a hard drive, or even a solid state drive that was something that could be easily replaced,
Hmm.
and that as they went to further miniaturization and trying to get more speed out of the thing and better power consumption, we now have the storage, solid state drive is soldered onto the logic board, is not replaceable, and the amount of storage coming with computers then got reduced. It was very common in the sort of last generation of replaceable drives to get 1 or 2 terabytes, and now you go and you get a Mac computer. I'm an Apple person, and the drives are not replaceable, and they have gotten really expensive for that jump from 1 to 2 terabytes, for instance.
Right.
And it's because they expect you to use the cloud. And Apple is touting it's a complete ecosystem, and so they, oh yeah, we can give you all the storage you need, and but that storage is up in the cloud, and it's actually kind of hard to understand what is stored where. And the mistake that you guys pointed out earlier, that people think, oh well, it's in the cloud, I can delete it off my device, and that's telling it to be deleted from the cloud. So that it I I was unhappy to see that trend in computer manufacture, where
Right.
onboard storage just got really expensive, and that's where those uh,
Yeah.
little solid state drives that you were showing, Allison,
Yeah.
are really a great tool. It kind of stinks that you have to like Velcro that onto the back of your laptop. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, yeah, and I got them
Yeah.
too. I did
Everybody's
get two
got them.
terabytes in
Yeah.
in the
I
laptop I'm
mean,
using here. But
the
Yeah.
size is unbelievable
yeah,
that this happens to be a Crucial XD and it's just
yeah,
teeny tiny.
yeah, and they're
Yeah.
and they're incredibly
This little
fast
tiny
too.
one. Yeah.
Yeah,
And when you say secured, when you're saying solid state, those are the drives just for people who are looking to buy things. Those are the ones that are called SSD. So those are the ones where there's no spinning components. Just so if people
yeah,
are looking, they know what they're looking at. EHD is considered external hard drive, which are usually cheaper, always cheaper, actually,
yeah.
because they do have moving components. Both are fine. I usually tell people you should trend towards the SSD if it's something that's moving around, traveling with you, that kind of thing. EHD is fine if it's literally just sitting on your desk, because you can get a lot more storage. They are cheaper. You can get more storage that way. But um,
But to
so
clarify it, the other spinning disk is a SATA, SATA.
yeah,
So SATA.
Yeah, and it's if spinning disk really is the category of conventional hard drive. That
Yes.
there actually is, it's like a little record player in there. Um, there's a platter spinning and a
yeah,
reed head on it that's like the tone arm on a record player.
yeah. If
For
you put
those
your
of us
hand
who
on it, you can
remember,
feel it
yeah, oh yeah,
moving, vibrating a
um,
little bit. Yeah,
yeah, and it's amazing that they're as reliable as they are. But yes, it is a very delicate um, electronic mechanism that is spinning at a very, very high rate of speed
yeah.
and has to be very, very precise in how it reads and writes the data. It's amazing
And
they
if
work at all.
and
That
if you
Yeah.
drop it, it could be over right there.
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for a typical person, Peter, let's talk about what you would suggest your setup is. And I know that you said that you could show us some diagrams. So for
yeah,
those
yeah.
that
We
want
Yeah.
to
can
look
look
at,
at how that scales.
yeah,
Sure.
look at how that scales for us, and we'll try and describe it for our listening audience.
Yeah. Let
Yeah. And
me.
for our listening audience, you can go watch this on our YouTube channel, so that you can see these diagrams. And I think we'll also put them on our resource page. after. So we'll try and describe it as we're talking if you're just, listening while walking the dog, like I always do. But you really do probably want to go to the YouTube or resource page so that you can see what we're talking about.
Okay. So I am going to share hopefully the correct screen. And then I'll go ahead and put this in play mode so it goes to full screen. Okay, you guys seeing that all right?
Yep.
Yes, we are.
All right. So so this is the most basic kind of setup, and you can see that I'm labeling things as primary and backups one and backup two, and that's how I like to do it. And in this case, the primary is just a computer, and the backup is an external hard drive, whether that's a spinning disk or a solid state disk. Um, it effectively is the same thing. And then in this diagram, we're seeing backup number two being also a drive of some sort or a cloud copy. So this conforms to the rule of three copies of the data and two different types if you're using cloud for backup number two, and one can be stored off-site. So either that cloud backup which is inherently off-site, great, or backup number two could be a second hard drive that you carry over to your friend's house.
Okay, great.
And then as your collection of stuff grows, it may be that you have an external drive attached to either your desktop computer or your laptop, and um, and so that in this diagram we see that the primary is the computer and the attached external drive, and the backups are essentially the same. It just you need to make sure that the backup drives have enough capacity to hold what's in both the computer and the external drive. Say that very common to save your photos and videos to an external drive like that. The
And this
cloud
is
drive, the cloud backup, and the offsite can be essentially the same.
Yeah,
Uh,
this is what I do. For a lot of people, their photo and their media collections are really too big for your computer. And even if they fit there, you might not be able to fit anything else. And so, this is what I do. This is why I have external drives
yep.
holding on to my media collection. And for a lot of people, depending on what software you're using for your photos and things, it doesn't mean that it still has to be connected all the time. Usually you can see thumbnails or optimized versions on your computer without that drive, but the drive will be holding all of the originals, because you don't have
Right.
enough space.
Yep.
So yeah.
So should we move on to the next one?
Yeah, keep us
Yes.
going.
Okay, so this is when you start to get a lot of data. And in this case, I'm not showing the computer, but your computer can be its own thing. And then what we're showing is that the primary can be a multi-drive, a multiple set of drives. Pardon me. And so that can either be um, a, just multiple different drives, or it could be a RAID or network attached storage where multiple drives act as a single drive. And in this case, all the drives are acting as individual drives, and that's how I have things set up. And then my backup will also be multiple individual drives, and backup number two. So backup one is multiple individual drives, and backup number two can also be multiple individual drives and or cloud storage or potentially optical disc like Blu-ray or DVD. And
Do you use Blu-ray? Well, actually, two
I
things.
did
One,
back in the day.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, two things. So one, I just want to point out on the screen it says JBOD, which refers to just a bunch of discs. So I just wanted to make that clear for people watching. But I'm surprised to see your CDs and DVDs. Is that something that's not something you'd use today?
It's
Is
not
it?
something I do today, but
Okay.
it is a viable means of doing it. And actually, even very large data centers like Facebook built one. It's it's been a number of years since I've read anything about it, but they built one in what appeared to be way past the era of the optical disc, where they were backing up all their data to optical discs, which is I you know can't imagine. It's a Sisyphean task to
Yeah.
push that rock up the hill all the time. But yeah, so in my case, each external drive, even though it's in a four drive enclosure, each drive shows up as its own single drive, and this is for how I am backing up the uh, essentially the archived files of all of my photo shoots uh, and raw video, as well as the projects, the video project files, and in my case, the books that we write and design. There's a big bundle at the end of a book project of files, and that all gets stored on on individual drives and backed up as individual drives.
Can you
Nice.
describe what your backup one, I think Susan refers to that as a toaster, but can you
Yeah.
describe what's happening in that one because people may not know what that is?
Sure, yes, and everybody calls it a toaster, um, and which is sort of a bad connotation, but in this case, the drives that I'm backing up to, and this is how I am still, this is how I do it here. The individual drives are I just buy as a hard drive without an enclosure. Pardon me, and then I use these plastic cases to um, to pull the drive out and then put it in the plastic case, and then I have a drawer in my studio that all of those plastic cases of hard drives live. Um, and that's it's an economical way to do it, although the economies of buying enclosures has changed a bit, and it's now probably uh, not much more expensive to buy an enclosure like we were seeing in the earlier slide, where the drive comes in a USB enclosure and it's a nice fast connection. It used to be expensive to get these. They're getting cheaper, but the toaster lets you just put the drive in, connect it, move some data over to it, and then disconnect it.
By lack of enclosure, I think you mean these are actually drives that you used to be able to just, put into your computer when you had to upgrade a
Yeah, they
drive.
they call
That's what they
their
are, yeah.
drives, and
Yeah.
so the if you buy a RAID or a network attached storage device, then typically they are sold, either with or without drives inside. You can buy one that has no drives, buy the drives of your choice, put those in the enclosure, and set it all up. And then if you need to upgrade to a larger drive because you filled the thing up, you can buy new drives and put them in and have larger capacity. Um, and then this scales up into okay, if you need 100 terabytes or so,
Right.
you can have something that looks
You
like
keep
this.
going.
But it's the same set of principles in that you have a primary copy, and you can have backups that are either just another version of the primary, the same type of RAID device, or it could be the individual disks, or if you're getting into 100 terabytes or more, maybe you're doing it on tape. And there are also network attached devices that allow you to so a network attached storage or NAS typically is how they're referred, is sometimes it's a single drive, but very often it's multiple drives in a single enclosure that is working as though it is one single drive. And these are actually little Linux computers that have, a logic board and RAM and a processor, and sometimes you can hook up keyboards and monitors directly to them. Sometimes they just kind of run themselves. Uh, they they have some advantages. Sometimes, like this QNAP that I'm showing here, QNAP is the brand, has a set of applications that can run on it, and it has its own programs that can run and do backup, and can even share out to the internet. Um, this is one of those places where if you're not good with computers, you can get yourself into some trouble because you know, the the software on it needs to be updated every now and then. This this is uh in the use of NAS, in my opinion, you need to either know the stuff yourself or have somebody close to you who will help
Knows
pay
the stuff.
attention to it,
Yeah.
or hire a service.
Yep. So I use Synology, and I've got two
Yep.
sitting on my desk. I have a 5 bay that I bought probably 10 years or more ago, and then I just updated it to I have another one that's 4 bays. So I'm in the process of decluttering so I can eventually migrate off that older one, but it's still churning along perfectly fine. And I've had to replace hard drives over the years.
Yep.
But what interestingly I'm finding now is the size of those hard drives in the 10-year-old model. Uh, you can't install something larger than 8 TB. Like that's the max, right? Because back then it didn't know what a 10 TB was because those hadn't been
Right.
around. So what you run into is just technology fading away and your ability to replace stuff. So just be aware of that.
Yeah, that's an important point. And there's another thing that I think is really important to say here is that if you've got some stuff, maybe it's old pictures, and you had it on a hard drive and you unplug that hard drive and you put it on a shelf and you're like, hey, well, I know that stuff's over there. Um, if you have stuff on a whole bunch of different drives, then it's really time to think about getting a drive that's big enough that you can copy all the data onto a new primary storage and have just one drive as the primary to be dealing with. Because, well, one of the things that happens is you pull those old drives out, you plug them in, and then you hear them clicking, and your
Nothing
computer tells you
happens.
that it
Yeah.
can't mount the drive, that the
Yeah.
drive appears to be broken, and data recovery from drives that have trouble can go into the tens of thousands of dollars. And so then you're faced with that decision of, do I, do I lose the entire record of my kid's childhood, or do I pay $10,000? And and so, our goal here really is to migrate to new storage before the old storage dies, and to have a good backup of it so that, um, when a problem occurs, you can get back up and running.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what I also share is that, when you buy a hard drive, take a Sharpie and write on it the year because years fly by and you think it's a brand new drive. You just bought it. And when you look at the date that you wrote on the back, you'll realize maybe it was 5 years old already. And, hard drive manufacturers typically tell you hard drives will last between 3 and 5 years. They can't guarantee, even that sometimes if there's um, a fault in the manufacturing process, which they won't realize until later when drives start failing. So write down or put a label if you have a label maker. That's what I've been doing just to keep track of stuff.
Yeah, that's a good thing. And I also will typically write the end date of the warranty on a drive.
Oh,
So
that's a
that,
good idea.
if it's out of warranty, probably there's no recourse. If it's in warranty and a drive fails, um, the manufacturers will typically just replace it, no questions asked. Um, so
But
that,
they
yeah,
won't
that's
help you get they won't help you get the data off.
Right.
no, they
They'll
will
just
not.
send you a new one.
Nope.
Yep. Okay, so now that we understand these different variations of a primary with multiple backups, what is the best way to set up a system where the primary is doing the backup
Yeah.
on a regular basis? Because you want your backups to be the same as your
Yes.
primary. You don't want backup one to have different data than backup two and different dates and all of that. So, can you walk us through the best way to set it up so it's automatic? And probably I'm assuming you can walk us through, sort of the average person
Yeah.
first who does not have 60 terabytes of probably
Right.
more is what's on the screen right now. This is probably, a 100 terabyte system we're looking at here. But, the average user who has less than a terabyte, less than a couple terabytes, what is the best way for them? What's the process? What's a
Okay.
system that they
So
can use?
let's run in reverse here for just a minute. I was going to say back up, but um,
It's hard not to use that word.
yeah. So um, the description here of these systems, where we're having multiple drives to store lots of media files. In this case, what I'm really talking about in those systems is just the backup of the media files themselves. And one of the things that's really nice about the ability to archive photo and video is that you do want a copy of that original file. That's the thing that's a very important thing to keep. And so you can just put those away and back them up in the processes we've described here. But that's different than the backup that you are going to also want to do for your computer with everything from your email and all your documents and maybe brand new files that have come in, works in progress. Maybe you're making a book for something. So that's a whole different kind of process. Now, when you're just a single computer and everything fits on the internal drive, then you can back that whole thing up to another drive using a backup utility. On Apple, I use Time Machine. As I'm a belt and suspenders person, but Time Machine and a program called ChronoSync to back that stuff up. I'm also using Backblaze. I mean, part of it is to test all of these,
Yeah.
but it's just let's make a copy of everything that's on my computer onto another drive and use a utility that will um, that will back up any changes. And it's also nice if your backup drive has enough capacity to be setting that up so that it when a file gets erased from the primary, it gets backed up into an archive. It gets saved into an archive on your backup drive so that if you accidentally have erased some files, those may be sitting in an archive.
Or
And you definitely need
versions.
a piece of software to manage this.
Yeah.
There's another one
And
I used in PC world, but it's been a couple of years called SyncBack, which I believe had a free version that would do this. Um, and
And when you're talking about the changes, we're talking about keeping it live, right? So a lot of people get into trouble because they try and do this manually.
yeah,
So they will just copy random folders off of their hard drive and stick it onto a backup. And I mean, it's better than nothing, but the problem is that one, you may not be getting everything. And two, you're not entirely sure what you're capturing. And you're not really capturing changes per se.
yeah,
So all of the things that you've mentioned, ChronoSync, and Backblaze, they're running all the time.
yeah.
So you make a change and that will automatically be backed up onto whatever system you have, the other drives or into the cloud. And
well,
that's
and they
where it's so much better because you don't have to think about, okay, which folders do I need to back up? Did I do that one? Did I not do that one? I created something new and then forgot about it, so that never got backed up. Whereas these will just be constantly scanning. Although I think ChronoSync you probably set on a schedule, right?
Yeah,
So
you
it's
can
not
sit on
exactly
a,
the same, but
yeah.
but similar. If you set a schedule to say back up every night at 10 p.m., then it'll capture all the things that happened that day.
Right. Yeah, and I think yeah, that's very important to have it be automatic and because it's impossible to
Yes.
do manually. It's just impossible. So,
Yeah.
um, should we go through this diagram?
Yes. So we
Okay,
have
so
a new diagram, daily backup, ChronoSync backup to secondary. Yes, walk us
yeah,
through it.
so this is how I protect my works in progress. So that's everything from, my email and documents that are on my computer to the files I've just downloaded to in my case, I use Lightroom to manage my photo archive and it's backing up Lightroom as well. So all of that is backing up in a scheduled daily backup through ChronoSync, and you can have it back up. In this case, the diagram is showing that my computer and an external working files drive can both be backed up automatically to to an external drive that happens nightly. And then I have another external drive that I run periodically. And if I'm going to be out of the house and I'm worried about new files, I can take that over to John's house. I don't do that much anymore because I also have that backup to Backblaze. And Backblaze creates an encrypted backup in the cloud and it runs constantly. And really I just think this is a blanket recommendation. If you don't have something that's doing this, Backblaze costs, I think, about $100 per computer for a year, and it will back up the drive and any or the computer and any attached drives. It puts it safely in the cloud. Um, I I still pay for we still pay for our kids' cell phones. Uh, that may stop soon, but because they're 30 now. Um, but
Wait,
I
I
will
have to pay for
probably
them that long? Hold on,
yeah, I
hold
know
on,
what
back
a
up.
suckers. Um, but I will probably always pay for their Backblaze um, because they may not decide that it's worth doing, and I will be the one who gets the call when a
Right.
drive fails. And so yeah, uh, I have for my work computers, for my wife's computer, for my kids' computers, we have Backblaze accounts. So uh,
And
yeah,
hold that thought. I just want you to explain while you're talking about ChronoSync a little bit about the difference between what Time Machine is doing behind the scenes and managing a blob and
yeah,
ChronoSync.
yeah. Oh, you had to bring up binary large objects. Um, the blob. It's actually an acronym. Um,
Everything's an acronym.
yeah, and computer people have fun with them. So, so what ChronoSync is doing is actually backing up every individual file onto the backup drive. You can open up that drive and you'll see it's a copy of all the files that are on the other drives. Um, when you use something like Time Machine, then it is creating a compressed backup of all of the files, and then it does allow you to sort of go into it and dive through different dates, and it will keep a backup of every state of your computer. If you have the drive connected and it's running constantly, then you might be able to walk back through each individual day or months to go back back in time before I erased those files accidentally or messed up my PhD dissertation. Cat walked across the keyboard or whatever. So those are the differences. And I have come to accept and like Time Machine. I was not a huge fan to begin with because it now does it does deal with multiple drives, but also um, the the way that the drives are configured, the way the storage is configured on modern computers, they've made it more complicated, so it's not really just kind of a list of files anymore. And in the event of needing to do a full restoration, like somebody steals your laptop, or you lose it or drop it off a table, and you have to just buy a new one, then on in the Apple ecosystem, restoration using Time Machine is going to be easier for your computer.
Yes.
Um,
But
Is there an
that's
equivalent for Time Machine to for the PC?
there is, and I think I have it in this presentation,
Yeah.
but I just this I did this presentation last week for another group, but I just Googled like PC equivalent of Time Machine,
Yeah.
and there is something that does pretty much the same thing on Windows.
but
Because
just a note for
Backblaze works on
our
both and ChronoSync is
yeah.
Mac. So I just wanted to make
Yeah,
that clear. Yeah.
yeah.
Right. And there is a PC equivalent to ChronoSync. I've used Second Copy.
Okay. Yeah, there's several different
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah. But you
So,
know what I want to say with Time Machine is because it is a blob, you can't peruse it outside of Time Machine very easily or at all. You
yeah,
need a Mac operating system and you need Time Machine, the software, to see that collection of backup files. Whereas with ChronoSync, you're looking at the raw files that you would normally interact with. And should you have a problem with your computer and you have a deadline, all you have to do is find another computer. It could be a Mac or it could even be, a PC if those files are on a drive that a PC could read. So you have more, in my opinion, flexibility when you do a one for one versus a blob backup using something like Time Machine. So I just want people to understand that sometimes having both is the belt and suspenders that we often talk about.
I mean, I like Time Machine because if something happens to your Mac, you can literally restore it from Time Machine. It's very simple. But you're right. I mean, I think all of three of us definitely have the belt and suspenders
yeah.
happening, and everybody should. I can't even remember the number of times I literally ask every client, do you have an auto backup, something like Backblaze? And most, I I think I've come across maybe one that does. And it's
Yeah.
so important. And for, I think it is, I want to say, I could be wrong, but I want to say maybe $120 a year now
It
for
might be. Yeah.
Backblaze, for your computer with its number of drives, any number of drives attached to it. And for the peace of mind that comes with that, I mean, that's like nothing. I do the same. My kids are backed up. We're all backed up, all of our computers, because you don't, it's like insurance. You
Yeah.
don't need it till you need it. But if you haven't
Yeah.
been paying for it and suddenly you need it, you're in a whole world of hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just it can be heartbreaking when someone just didn't think about doing it or didn't do it properly. So
Yeah.
let me just go through how we're actually using it here because I'm not just a one computer family. Um, my wife works in the business as well, so she has a computer and um, a couple of terabytes of data, and hers is also being backed up over a network using ChronoSync to that same external drive. And we also do some scanning here. And I have a couple of iMac scanning stations. And when I'm scanning, I want to make sure those files get backed up every day as well. And so they're all pointed at this one backup drive that that I have available on my network. And then that backs up to Backblaze, that external drive, and I can just copy everything to a second drive and have that as offsite storage. We go to the mountains a lot over the summer. I can take that backup drive with me, and that's going to give me everything that's kind of a works, that's a works in progress now. And so it's this is very secure. It's happening daily, and it's protecting all of the changes, all of the new files that are coming in. And it's automated. It's really set it and forget it, and I've got my Backblaze on auto credit card renew, so no, I don't know how much we pay for it. Um, but it just renews every year, and it'll send you an email saying, "Hey, I haven't seen your computer in a while. Everything okay? You wanna get it updated?"
Back online. Yeah.
Yeah,
And this is very easy to set up. So
it
this
is
might
very
look
easy.
complicated on the
Yeah,
slide. There's a lot of arrows, there's a lot of whatever, but it's
yeah,
very easy to set up.
yeah.
So if you are not super tech savvy, you can do it without a lot of trouble.
Yeah, this may scare a few people away, this
I
screenshot,
just
but
said it was easy. Now you're putting the
yeah,
slide
no,
up.
this is not Backblaze. This is ChronoSync, and this is saying, everything on this drive is gonna get um, uh, backed up to this other drive, all computer backup 4, um, and you can schedule that using ChronoSync to run daily. And the way I have mine set up is on that backup drive. There's a folder for each of the different drives that is backing up to it, and that way I can know what's where. Um, Backblaze itself, super easy to set up, and um, it really it's basically just you buy it, or you can even get the trial, and you don't have to do much more than give it your email and password, and it can go. And then you can this is a screenshot that we're seeing here that is of Backblaze, and what we can see here is that I can tap in from anywhere and see the files that are being backed up through Backblaze, that's showing them as though I was on my own computer. And so if you it also works as a way to get files remotely. If you happen to need something and you're not home, you can tap into the Backblaze website, go search for the file that you're looking for, and download it from, Cape Town, South Africa.
I was not doing that. I was
Yeah.
on vacation.
Hopefully
Um,
you were not working,
I
but
didn't even have any internet
yeah.
mostly once we left Cape Town. So yeah. And I will say, I don't go into Backblaze very often, but I do it every once in a while just to make sure things are there. And
Yeah.
they are. And so
Yeah.
it's nice to be able to see all of the folders and the files. It does take a bit when you first start. So if
Yeah.
somebody's listening and they decide I'm going to try Backblaze, and they have a terabyte of data or whatever, it does take some time. It is dependent on how fast your internet is to
Yes.
get everything up there. But I have found once you do that initial backup, everything else is very fast because it's just looking for changes and things that are
Yes.
new.
Yeah, and I had to refresh because I've been using my same Backblaze instance for uh, like 12 years, and they're like, you know what, you need to just start it over again. Um, and so you can see in the Backblaze preferences, I have like 6 terabyte. Yeah, well, you can see it on that last screen. I have 6 terabytes
Yeah.
on my main computer, and it's been running for a while, and there's still another 2 terabytes to go, but it'll get there within a
Yeah.
couple of weeks,
Yeah.
Yeah, it
and
will
then it's
take
done.
time. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. But you have ChronoSync working for you during
yes,
that time anyway, so everything is protected, which is why we use belts and
absolutely.
Redundant.
suspenders. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. Redundancy is
Yeah.
yeah,
the
and
key.
another nice thing just to hit this, since you brought it up at the beginning, the way that Backblaze is storing your files is a very good protection against the ransomware that you mentioned earlier, Allison. And that the fact that those files are there, they are stored as individual files. You can roll back to to the files up to 30 days on just the normal backblaze. You can also get something that holds onto them longer, but um, that's a really important protection. The ransomware is not just targeting big companies; they
No.
target individuals.
Yeah.
So you have to take.
Individuals are easier. That's a whole other
Yeah,
that's a whole other episode.
but it is possible to
But
just
it is
use that
possible.
one service
I
and
do
have that
have
taken care of.
yeah, I mean I do have one client who had that happen to her. And she doesn't have a business. She's just a regular
Yep.
person and it wreaked havoc on
Yeah.
everything and she lost a fair bit of stuff because sometimes it's easier for them to target Joe Schmo or your
Yeah.
friend John um,
Yeah.
because we don't have the resources to fight back. So
Yeah.
a lot of times. Anyway, that's a tangent. We do want to make sure we talk about Mediagraph,
Sure.
which is the company that you is your company or that you work with.
I'm the head of product there.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. I wasn't entirely sure.
Chief
So,
product officer. Yeah.
Chief Product Officer. And tell us a little bit about it, and maybe you can give us a quick little demo
Sure.
or
Sure.
something. Yeah.
So Mediagraph is an application, a cloud service that is for uh, uh, media libraries, so photo and video libraries, as well as other information, other metadata, and it's primarily for organizations where we have a lot of nonprofits, we have a lot of universities, and a lot of companies that are using it to make their photos and videos um, discoverable, findable by people within their organization. Sometimes it's the entire university community, and it gives them metadata searchability and as well as the tagging ability. And the thing that most consumers are so familiar with these days is that the personal photo applications do a fantastic job of face tagging, but the ones that are built for organizations often don't have that.
Yeah.
And if you've got a couple of 100,000 photos from your university and you really want to find all the pictures of the president of the university, the face tagging tool, that's one of the things that's just a really fantastic um, capability that we've all come to expect out of our out of our whatever we're using to manage our photos. But let's do just a quick
Yeah,
look here.
give us an overview.
Yeah. So
What size business would you say or nonprofit is this good for?
so it most of the programs that do what we do kind of start at 20 to $30,000 a year. We start at $1,000 a year. So we do have a lot of businesses that or a lot of nonprofits that could be a small conservation nonprofit or um, there's a whole range uh, of folks that are doing there's we do have a lot in the world of conservation where they need to have photos and videos of the land, um, and they can start at a very reasonable price. We have some small wineries. But let me just give you a quick look. We'll take a look here, and I'll share my screen. Try and share the correct one, and go. Okay, so
And again, if you're listening, you might want to hop over to our YouTube channel because this one's going to be harder to explain.
it's going to be a little harder to
Yeah.
explain. So this is my own personal photography website or account, and I've got a bunch of material that has been uploaded here, and that includes my professional photography work. It also includes um, a lot of personal material. So, for instance, I was just in Mexico, and we have some of the videos from from our Mexican adventure, which is great. And there's a bunch of other photos. Um, there you can see up here on the right, there's 77,000 photos, videos, and other documents in here. And if I want to say look at them in map view, and let's travel to South Africa since Allison was just there, and take a look at Chapman's Peak.
We
Um,
were there. Yep.
and so I can search on that, and that takes me to the Chapman's Peak Drive area. I can see that there's a photo there. I can even go into a satellite view. I can zoom down in and even drop my little guy there and be able to look around at the place where Mediagraph thinks this picture was shot. And
I
I
was
can
going to
see that.
say, is that you in the Google shot?
No, I don't think so.
Hold on, let me look at that car. Nope, that's not
Yep.
us.
Yeah, not me. But yeah, let's get a little closer to
We
it.
were there at a sunnier day than that, just saying.
Yeah, it was a lovely day. Yeah, you can see there was a pull off
Yeah.
where I shot the picture from, and if I drop my little guy right where the picture is, you can
Is
see
this using
where
Google Maps or
it is
Google?
using Google
Yeah.
Maps. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it
That's too funny.
thinks I was standing right there when I shot that. You can see I was standing off the side of the road, but
Yeah.
it's a neat ability to find files according to a lot of different stuff, and to be able to put information in here. So, for instance, I've got a lot of family photos in here, and I've got a bunch of my grandmother. They were apparently not afraid to hire photographers back in the day, which is nice. Um, and I can show every file that's tagged with Helen Krogh.
Do
And
you have to tag those themselves yourself, or is this through the facial
a
recognition
lot of
within the
this is through the
software?
facial recognition. We can see that she is recognized here. Um, and it recognizes her from a pretty young age all the way up into her 90s. And I can go through
And she's
those.
wearing a great hat.
Yeah, yeah. And so that's a great thing. But also we show you relationships, exploiting how the metadata can really help tell you about a person. So, for instance, what we're seeing here in these related tags are tags that are also in photos of her. And if I just want to look for other people who are in photos of her, I can click on the people, and I can say, well, oh, well, I'm looking for pictures of Helen and Harold, and then that's going to now narrow down to only pictures of them, only the 111 pictures with both Helen and Harold. But then it's telling me who else is in a picture with them. So I can say, oh, look, there's a picture of them and Jürgen Rude. And um, that's coming up. And then that's also telling me that Luffy Baggeson is in this photo as well. So I'm able to learn about uh, the people and the relationships between the people
That's really
by,
cool.
in this case, the face tagging. And I can look in here and see that some of these people are unidentified, but Harold, Helen, Luffy, and Jurgen
And you can
have all
block
been face
faces of
tagged.
people you don't like.
You can. Yes, that's that is
Is that the
that is a
same as
feature.
back in the day when somebody cut you out?
But there's a lot of neat stuff that we are making available. A lot of this is stuff that you can find in just in desktop software, but it's very hard to find in cloud software. So, for instance, I can set the date to whatever I want. I can make it either just a year or year, month, and date, and then so this picture of my great 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 grandfather, um, which I can tell because there's some writing on the back of that photo, and he when he was inscribing it to my great grandmother, he was 78 years old and she was a child. Yeah,
Now,
so
are
he
these dates that are added to this photo? Because obviously this was a scanned photo.
yeah.
Did you add the date before you brought it into MediaGraph, or are you able to change the date once it's
You can
in
change the
MediaGraph?
date in MediaGraph with a simple drag and drop onto the year that you want it to be in, which is really a great capability. And you can see that, these don't have a month and day. It's just 1876.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
or
cool.
1874. So that's pretty neat. And another thing that's really cool there um, is handwriting recognition, and so the ability to recognize text and to make it searchable, to even be able to translate. And so there's a one of these in here. My father's registration at St. Albans Sunday School in 1935. The we'll see here that Bertha Sykes, the date and the name Bertha Sykes, superintendent of the Sunday school, was actually recognized by
Wow.
the handwriting recognition.
Oh, so it actually takes the OCR text file and gives you a field where it repopulates that in plain text, and then you could actually copy it out of there and do whatever you want.
Yes, and
That's
you can edit it. So, for instance, and I haven't done the edit, but it thinks St. Albans was St. Alberus. But if you look at that, that
right,
actually kind of looks
Yeah.
like it says St. Alberus.
That's
right.
Um,
amazing. There aren't, I'm trying to think, there aren't too many photo softwares. I mean, there is other software that can transcribe handwriting, but I don't think I've ever seen it rolled into a media, a dam,
yeah,
actually.
and another thing that in that same kind of vein. So I'm searching for like artificial intelligence, and a lot of these things are coming up. So the optical character recognition is what's making this show up because it found the word artificial visible in the file. But we're also indexing. Um, we are transcribing automatically and indexing for search the transcript. So this video came up in my search because at 4 minutes and 34 seconds, this word was found to have been spoken in the transcript. And I can jump
Wow.
my playhead straight there and just start playing.
And does that happen? You upload a video and then the software will automatically start to
Yes.
transcribe.
Yes. And it can do a very nice job of summarizing photos for alt text. It generates keywords. It it also searches um, like this damn book that I wrote.
Yeah.
It's searching and thumbnailing all 544 pages here,
Oh my
and
goodness.
I can search through the whole thing and find every instance of the word artificial that is that's that's found in the entire book.
So, Peter, does it have on upload, does it have a duplicate finder, or does it allow you
We can
to?
find duplicates right now. That's a thing that we run for the clients. Um, Coming soon to be at the time of upload. It's a complicated problem for us because we have potentially hundreds of different people uploading, and they can be uploading to their own space.
Right.
And so there's issues of, well, actually, maybe I want this duplicate because this
It's
is
my version.
this is a bundle
Yeah.
for um, a book output or something like that. And
Okay.
I really want our logo in here, or I really want this picture in here. So, but we can run it for people and we can color label it and let them decide whether they want to keep duplicates or not.
Hmm.
And if you're interested, at www.mediagraph.io, you can come to our website. If you think your organization would be interested in it, you can hit book a demo and uh, book an appointment with me, or start a trial, and you can just go ahead and start a trial on your own. Unlike pretty much every one of our competitors who works in this space, we do publish our prices. It's one of the things I find really frustrating about the world of enterprise software is that feels like you're, buying a used car, because they don't want to tell you how much stuff costs, but we tell you right up front.
That's
And
nice.
um,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of stuff in here. There's a lot of videos that show you how everything is put together, and we want people to know what we can do before they sign up. And it's been a real joy to be able to build the tool I think people need to manage and make best use of their media.
Awesome.
Fascinating. There's definitely some things in there that I was not aware of. The transcribing of videos, I did not know. I mean,
It's a
that's amazing because videos are hard to search, generally speaking. I mean,
Yeah,
unless you put in
yeah,
a long caption or something, or transcribe it yourself, or use other software and put that transcription in,
yeah,
which is a lot of work.
yeah. We're soon to have uh, trans video summary through AI. I'm a little skeptical of a lot of the AI claims, but there are certain things it's really good for, and
Yeah.
one of those is the ability to generate a good description of what it's seeing. And so just to look at some of the files. I've been playing around with the prompts, so God knows what they actually look like here. But yeah, two football players engaged in an intense tackle on a field.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good description of what's going on there. Um, and so these are auto-generated close up of a leopard's face peeking through the foliage.
Yeah, that's pretty right on.
Um,
I think a lot of those have a ways to go. Well, I keep
yeah,
getting the summaries of my text message strings. And one of them showed up yesterday, and the little summary that pops up on my screen was something about a Ponzi scheme. We were talking about pancakes. So
yeah,
Apple really blew it on that one. But it is
yeah.
getting a lot better, and I can
Apple's
see
having
how
a
it would
real
be.
problem. I don't know if you noticed that they have walked back all of their claims for what the AI is going to be able to
Yeah.
do, and saying like maybe 2027.
What,
Yeah.
from a privacy standpoint,
Yeah.
what are you using to train this software for
So
some of these
it's
features?
yeah. So the AI that we're using is all going through Amazon, and so when we do the face recognition, it only gets a photo. It doesn't get any identification of who that person is. And what it does is it makes a mathematical map of the face. And so then when new photos come in, it compares that mathematical map to the mathematical map that is made of the incoming photos, and it never knows who anybody is. It's just saying, oh, this is X1278339, and then we can put a label on it in MediaGraph. So uh, that's part of it. And Amazon has a pretty unambiguous statement that the AI tools are not being trained on customer data. So that information is not being used to train the AI. It is just analyzing the files. So
And and then your AI is available beginning at the second level essential AI package,
that's
right?
correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your uh, first introductory plan, the essential doesn't give you the AI. And then is AI built in then automatically with all plans above that?
Yes. Everything
Okay.
that's in a plan is in all plans to the right of it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's
Interesting.
I'd love to be able to offer it to everybody, but
Right.
it does cost us.
Right?
It's not
AI
free.
is not
And
cheap. Yeah.
yeah. Um, and there are these things it does really well. It does great with optical character recognition, with voice to text, like in transcribing videos. Um, it's getting remarkably good for keywording. What we're about to launch very shortly is using one of the big large language model, advanced AIs for keywording, and it was just a fantastic capabilities that this was able to find in some of our testing. See if I can find that. Um, and we were looking at this yesterday, and basically we got to the point where saying um, we can't we can't not show this. We can't not add this because it's so much better. So this is just a random photo, and the keywords that it came up with uh, are these here: sports bar, Philadelphia Eagles fan, celebration, crowded venue, cash register, bar counter, Eagles jerseys, film photography. It could tell that it was actually a film original.
Mm.
Nightlife, cheering crowd, sports enthusiasm, bar, sink, drinking glasses, retro cash register. All of that was automatically identified in this picture. And the Eagles
Yeah.
jersey, you've got to it's pretty small in the frame to get.
Yeah, but it got it. Plus the
Yeah,
Eagles
Interesting.
hat, the logo.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it's that stuff is just remarkable, and what it
Mm.
did for this other one of these silhouette people in silhouette. Again, it could tell that it was film photography. Um, Scenic overlook, golden hour, picnic gathering, film photography, rolling hills, lake view, sunset landscape. Just just a remarkable set of keywords that are being attached to it.
That
And
is definitely the future. And
yeah, and
you can see some of that in the way, Apple Photos and Google Photos search now. They don't attach the keywords, but you could search mountain or hill. This looks a lot uh, more sophisticated than that, but
and
it definitely is the way this is going.
yeah, and I want to point out a couple things. Number one, we the the automated tools have gotten very good at being able to describe what is visible in a picture. So you don't have to tag for tree or dog or, Philadelphia Eagles jersey, which is remarkable. Uh, so that's allowing the content to be discovered much more easily. Um, and that's a really important thing. The other thing is that our philosophy on this is if you've paid us to run this AI on your files, we want to give you the data so you can take it with you. Whereas in so many of these, the keywords and the analysis that's being done is all, inside a black box. And when you move your files out of the black box, all of that knowledge that has been attached to the files themselves is lost.
Right.
And they're
Yeah.
doing that because it's a consumer service and they want you to stay there.
An
But
example would be like
Yeah.
Google Photos
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, or Apple Photos,
or
it does
Apple
not,
Photos, right?
or even Adobe's Lightroom Cloud. If
Right.
it can do a very nice job identifying who the people are, but as soon as you pull the file out, you don't have that information anymore.
Unless
And
you group them by name and
Yeah.
tag them
yeah,
once
it's a
they
Manually.
have
it's a
Yeah.
found it.
lot of work to
Manually.
save
Yeah.
that, and it
Yeah.
shouldn't be. It should, in my view, it should be attached to those files. That should be, you know, you paid for it.
Yeah.
It should be yours, and that's, that has been an underpinning of all of the work that I've done in this space since the very beginning.
I love it. Can you go back to your Mediagraph archive? Because we've taken a lot of your time today, so we need to start wrapping up.
Yeah.
And our final question is always, what's the strangest photo in your collection? And since you're literally showing us your collection, is there
Yeah.
is there one in here?
Oh God. The thing that I was gonna say was a slide I ran across the other day, but I haven't digitized yet.
Oh no. Well, you
Yeah,
can use that. I just figured since we were looking at your photos
yeah.
here.
I mean, we could find some strange stuff in here. Um, but yeah, back in early in my career, um, I used to work for NBC sometimes, and when the entire George Bush family, well, Bush and his sons went on there. They hired me to come shoot film of that event, and I found this slide, and it's, the however many four Bush sons or and George.
Oh,
Yeah, and it's
wow.
like, wow, totally forgot about that
That
picture.
you took the picture?
Yeah, yeah, I took the picture, and it was so I have the slide, but
Yeah.
yeah, strangest picture. I don't know.
Well,
That's
you need to get that into this collection here that we're looking at.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder if we just searched on strange, does anything?
Let's see what it says.
Probably not. Um, nope.
Oh, your book.
It's finding words in transcripts and uh in books. Um, so
Okay,
yeah.
that's funny that it pulls up your book. I mean, I get it. The word is probably in there
Yeah, the word
somewhere,
is in
but
there
it
somewhere.
is funny. Yeah.
And somewhere in this video of my wife's family,
Somebody
wife's
is
family's home meeting.
strange.
But
Yeah.
yeah, no, sorry about that. I should have been more
That's
prepared, but
okay.
I
I put
wasn't.
you on the spot there. But the slide of all the Bush family, that's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
pretty good.
I've got a stack of things that need digitizing that's sitting over
Yeah.
by the camera scanning station.
I think we
You
all
you
do.
along with the rest of us.
Yes,
Yep.
exactly.
Yep. We all do. We all do.
All right, so this is a new record. We are now almost
It's well, we're at like an hour and a half because
yeah,
I time us, so that's why I wanted to wrap it up. But so much really useful
yeah,
information that people can act on. This stuff doesn't have to be hard, and I
No.
think you've shown that.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be hard. You can start small, especially if you have a smaller collection. But I would say if you're listening and you do not have an automatic backup system in place,
Yeah.
do it immediately.
Yep.
Immediately. I mean, just look at the fires in California
Yeah.
where no warning, and if you didn't have that in place, your stuff could be gone, and a lot of people did lose their stuff. So
Yep. Yep.
start right now. Don't wait.
I
Everything else can
strongly
wait. Don't
second
wait.
that recommendation. That and
Yeah.
centralize all of your stuff
Well,
onto
that too. That takes
as
a
few
little bit
drives as
longer.
possible. Yeah.
Yeah, and
yeah.
that's something we've talked about as well, in various forms on this show is the centralizing and, getting things digitized so that that slide doesn't get lost of all the
Hmm.
bushes.
And
But you
check your
don't,
old media.
yeah, but you don't
Make
have
sure
to
it works.
wait to set up your backup.
Right,
Right.
And you should set up your backup right now. And then as you're centralizing your media, it will automatically get backed up. You don't want to wait and
Yeah.
think, well, I'm going to do that after I've actually got everything together because I don't want to put a bunch of junk up there, which, is a valid point. But I would say I would rather be backing up junk than lose everything.
right.
So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
And I did look, it's $99 a year
It
for a
is.
Oh,
Okay, good.
computer. Yeah,
for
Great.
Backblaze.
yeah.
And just to say, none of us here work for Backblaze. I just want to put that out there. We just all
Right.
use it.
I pay
We all,
retail.
yeah, we do
So
pay retail. We do. I thought it was more. That's good. That's 99, probably per computer.
yeah, per computer. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, but it's a great, and there's other software out there too, but this is happens to be the one the three of us use. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
Peter, thank you so much
Well, thanks
for
for having
coming
me.
on.
Yeah.
This is fabulous.
It's been a great pleasure. And so now I have that one checked off my bucket list to interview Peter.
Well, thanks so much. I really enjoyed being here and look forward to seeing you guys again one of
Are
these
you
days.
guys coming
Yeah.
to a conference in San
We have
Diego?
a conflict, sadly.
Yeah.
Oh,
Erica, I think is trying to get there, but Allison and I have conflicts, which is too bad because we absolutely love the photo managers, the event, the people, the
Yeah.
whole thing. Um,
all
Well, we'll
right.
miss
Well,
you.
hopefully one more conference in the future, perhaps,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
if the
All
timing
right.
works.
Great
Thank
to be
you.
part of this,
All right.
and thanks so much.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks. Wow.
That
Okay.
was a lot.
That was a lot, but backup is like our thing. And so I
It
was so glad that we could bring him on and just have him really dive in and explain in great detail what all of this
yeah,
321 stuff means, because we talk about that, uh, as you say,
every
probably
time, every time.
every
We just
episode.
cannot stress how important that is. And
Yeah.
I think it's, people should be seeing that now. There's so many natural disasters everywhere. And then there's human error or there's drives that fail, like all of it.
Or you just spilled your Coke on the desk or something.
Exactly. And it's not
You
just your
know,
photos and videos, your documents and things too. You need to be taking control of it and making sure that you have it saved. So I'm so glad that we were able to go through that in depth. I would say, this is one I'm going to go back and watch and listen again because there's such great information here. So I would say too, if you listen to this while out walking your dog, which is where I listen to all of my podcasts, I highly, highly suggest you go back and put it on your to-do list to watch it on our YouTube channel because I think the diagrams were very, very helpful. Um, to
absolutely.
just put it in perspective. And like I said, it's not hard. It does not have to be hard. It can be simple to set up.
Yeah. Yep. And I just want to plug his books. If you do want to check out any of his books, they're highly recommended. He's got the Damn Book Guide to Organizing Your Photos with Lightroom as
Yeah.
well. And I have that as well because I use Lightroom to manage my client files as well as my own. So
Yeah.
great references there.
Yeah. Fabulous. All right, Susan. Until
Another
next
great,
month.
another great podcast in the can.
Yeah, I think this was number, hold on. Do we know which one, what number this? I want to say 22. Is this episode 22 maybe? We're getting
It'll
close
be
to that
posted.
2 year mark. I know.
I
I
know.
know. So enjoy and have a great day and until next time.
Yep. Thanks,
All right.
Allison.
Signing
Until
off.
next time. That's it for our show today. Remember, you can find this episode on all of your favorite podcast apps. Be sure to click follow so you can stay up to date with the latest in photo organizing. We'll catch you next month.